Hey everyone, today we're going to be converting fractions to decimals. So before we did decimals to fractions, now we're going to do fractions to decimals. What you will need to use is long division to convert fractions into decimals. So if you are strong with long division, awesome. If not, then hopefully this is a great reminder in order to help you get back into that swing of that method. So what's important to know though is that there can't be any remainders. So we have been taught in the past to write like remainder 3 if there's 3 parts left over, but that's kind of going against what we're trying to do here, which is creating a decimal. So instead, you're going to need to have decimals at the end instead of remainders. So here's our first example, our only example. What is 6/11ths as a decimal? So step 1 is to divide the numerator by the denominator. So what that means is you set up the numerator inside the division box and then the denominator on the outside. So in this case, my 6 is my numerator, so that's going to go inside that division box, and the 11, which is my denominator, is going to go on the outside. It's very important to keep this in mind, what needs to go inside or not, because you can have the wrong answer if you do not do that properly. Step 2. So we had our 6 and our 11. There we go. Step 2 is determine how many times the denominator can go into the numerator without going over the amount. So place this number at the top. So what that just means is that if you're able to divide like normal and nothing, or in a number, the number on the outside can go on the number on the inside, then you just divide the same way you usually would, which would be put that number on top and continue from there. However, if the denominator can't go into the numerator, then write a 0 and a decimal at the top and place a 0 next to the numerator. So if I look at my example, 11 can't go into 6 without going over. So that means we're going to have to do some work here. So what I need to do now is put that 0 and the decimal right at the top, because that's telling me that now it's a decimal, and I have added that 0 at the end. So pretty much the first time that you ever add a 0 onto your numerator, you're going to have to put that decimal up there. Okay. So step 3 is to determine how many times the numerator can go into the new number and write it after the decimal. So in my example, 11 can go into 60 5 times. 11 times 5 is 55. That is the number that is going to be as close to 60 as I can without going over, because 6 times 11 is going to be 66, which is right above that 60. So I know that 11 can go into 65 times. I'm placing it right next to that decimal and right above the 60. Okay, step 4, multiply the amount from the previous step in the denominator and place that amount under the numerator, then subtract. So again, this is the same steps as division as you already have learned. We're going to take 5 times 11, which is 55, placing it right underneath my numerator with the 0 at the end, and then we're going to subtract. And 60 minus 55 is going to be 5. Okay, so maybe you're able to stop right here, but in my example, I can't. It says add another 0 to the numerator and repeat steps 3 and 4. Keep going until the decimal ends or no remainder, or you notice a repeating pattern. So you can see a couple of things with this. Let's look at what my example gives me. So I have a remainder still. I can't have that remainder. So what I'm going to do is add that 0 at the end and bring it down. Now I'm going back to step 3, which is to figure out how many times 11 can go into 50 without going over. 11 can go into 50 4 times. I know that because 11 times 4 is 44. If I went one more up, 11 times 5 would be 55. That is above my 50 mark. And then I'm going to repeat step 4, which says to multiply 4 times 11, which is 44. Then subtract it. And 50 minus 44 is 6. Okay, I still have a remainder, so I'm going to repeat that step again. I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down. How many times can 11 go into 60 without going over? Well, we did that already, and we know that it is 5. 5 times 11 is 55. Subtract them again, and we are left with 5. So hopefully now you can start seeing a pattern. Every time that I add a 0, I'm either gonna get to try or have to try to reach 50 or 60. I am gonna do that one more time just to make sure. So I'm gonna add that extra 0 in it, bring it down. 11 can go into 50 4 times. 4 times 11 is 44. Do some subtracting, and I'm left with 6 again. So you can keep going on forever and ever, or you can start seeing that the pattern in this example is going to be 5, 4, 5, 4 repeated, so on and so on. I suggest going to at least 4 digits after the decimal before you start assuming that there's a pattern. So keep going until you know for sure. Step 6 is to properly write the decimal. Remember, if it repeats, put that slash over it, or over the repeating numbers, or you could put a dot, dot, dot at the end. So for my example, I have the numbers 5 and 4 repeating, so I have my line over that. So that means that my decimal right here is 0.4 or 54 repeated. And we can also write it as the same thing that I had above my answer, or sorry, as my answer, which was right here. I knew that it went on forever, so I put a dot, dot, dot at the end. So that's how you complete taking fractions and turning them into decimals. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask.